The research station floated in the endless dark, a tiny metal sphere against the glowing fury of a neutron star. Inside, 3 humans worked at their posts. Dr. Alan Williams stared at screens filled with numbers and strange symbols. He rubbed his tired eyes, then opened them wide as something unusual appeared on his monitor. "Lisa, come look at this," he called to the communications officer. Lisa Morgan moved from her station and leaned over Alan's shoulder. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the numbers dancing across the screen. "That's not possible. We're picking up a signal." "From where?" asked Jake Robinson, the security chief. He walked over, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. "Deep space. Further than our sensors should reach." Lisa frowned and typed quickly. "But it's not just any signal. Look at the wavelength." Alan pointed at the screen. "I've never seen anything like it. The energy signature is completely unknown." Jake crossed his arms. "Is it dangerous?" "I don't know." Lisa sat down and began working on the signal. "Give me a few minutes. I'll try to clean it up." Her fingers moved rapidly across her keyboard. Static filled the speakers, then slowly became clearer sounds. A low hum filled the room. The 3 humans listened in silence. The hum turned into pulses, then became something like words. But the words were wrong somehow, like they came from a place far beyond human understanding. "What language is that?" Jake asked. "None I know," Alan said. "And I speak 8 different alien languages." Lisa shook her head. "It's not following any known translation patterns, but wait." She typed more commands. "There's math hidden in the signal, universal constants. If I can just..." The lights in the room flickered. Alan looked up, worried. "Did you do that?" "No," Lisa said. Her face went pale. "Something else is happening." Jake grabbed his datapad and checked the station's systems. "Defense grid just went down. Communications are failing. We're losing power in several sections." "That's impossible," Alan said. "This station was built to withstand anything." Lisa continued working on the signal. Sweat beaded on her forehead. "Almost there. I think I can decode part of it." The lights flickered again. This time they went out completely for 5 seconds before coming back on. In that darkness, Jake heard Lisa take a sharp breath. "What is it?" he asked. "Coordinates. The signal contains coordinates, and..." She stopped talking and stared at the screen. "What?" Alan moved to see better. "It's a warning," Lisa said quietly. "The signal isn't asking for help. It's warning others to stay away." Jake felt cold spread through his body. "Warning about what?" Before Lisa could answer, an alarm blared. Red lights started flashing on every panel. Jake ran to the main console and checked the readings. His face turned ashen. "Something's coming. Something big." "How big?" Alan asked, his scientific curiosity fighting with his fear. "I can't tell. The sensors can't measure it properly. It's like it exists in more than 3 dimensions. Lisa jumped up. "We need to leave. Now." Jake checked the escape pod systems. "All pods are non-functional. We're trapped." The station shook violently. Equipment fell from shelves. Alan grabbed the wall to steady himself. "What's happening?" "It's here," Lisa said. She pointed at the window. All 3 humans looked outside. The neutron star cast its eerie light on empty space. For a moment, nothing changed. Then reality itself seemed to crack. Lines appeared in space like glass breaking. Through these cracks, they saw something that made their minds struggle to comprehend what they were seeing. It was vast. It moved in ways that defied physics. Colors that humans had no names for swirled around it, shapes that shifted from one form to another without transition. And within it all, something that seemed almost alive looked back at them. "God," Jake whispered. "What is it?" Alan's scientific mind tried to process what he saw. It's outside our understanding. It doesn't follow the laws of physics we know." The station shook again, harder this time. Systems began failing one by one. Life support warnings flashed red. They had minutes, maybe less. The signal, Lisa said suddenly. It came from them. They sent it. But why? Alan asked. Why warn others if they're the danger? Maybe they're not the danger, Jake said slowly. Maybe something else is. The being outside moved closer. As it did, each human felt a pressure in their mind. Not painful, but present, like someone pressing gently against their thoughts. It's trying to communicate, Alan realized. But our brains aren't built for this. We can't understand. Then we need to try harder, Lisa said. She sat back at her station, despite the failing systems. If this is first contact, we need to make it count. The lights flickered wildly now. The station groaned under stress it was never designed to handle. Through the cracks in space, more beings appeared. They were all different, all impossible to fully see. Some large, some small, all beyond human comprehension. They're gathering, Jake observed, like they're waiting for something. Alan moved to help Lisa. What can we do? We can't even understand their most basic communication. We try, Lisa said firmly. We're humans. We solve problems. The pressure in their minds grew stronger. Images started to form. Not pictures, but concepts, thoughts, feelings that came from outside their own minds. Fear. Warning. Coming. They're afraid, Alan said in amazement. These incredible beings are afraid of something. Of what? Jake asked. The answer came not in words, but in a flood of sensation that overwhelmed their human minds. They saw the beginning of the universe, they saw the end. And in between, they saw something moving through dimensions like a shark through water. Something hungry. Something endless. When the vision ended, all three humans were on the floor, breathing hard, their eyes wide with terror and awe. We need to warn Earth, Jake said. We need to tell everyone. With what? Lisa asked weakly. Our communications are dead, and even if they weren't, would they believe us? Alan sat up slowly. We're still alive. They haven't destroyed us. Maybe they want us to understand. Outside, the beings continued to gather. The neutron star's light bent around them, creating patterns that hurt human eyes to look at. But as the three humans watched, they began to see something else in the gathering. Not just fear, but perhaps hope. The signal that had drawn them here began again. This time, it sounded different. Like a question. They're asking us something, Lisa said. She returned to her damaged console and tried to respond. The station shook one more time. In that moment, each human felt a connection form. Not understanding, not yet, but recognition. They were being seen, truly seen, and in that seeing, the universe changed forever. The neutron star flared. The beings vanished like images on a screen when the power cuts out. The station was left floating in normal space again. Systems slowly came back online. The signal stopped, but the three humans would never be the same. They looked at each other, knowing that everything they thought about, the universe, was wrong, and knowing that something worse than these impossible beings was coming, something that would require all of humanity to face together. Alan checked his screens. The data was still there. The proof. Lisa saved what she could of the signal. Jake began planning how to defend against the unknown. Outside their window, space looked normal again. But they knew better now. They had seen behind the curtain, and what they had seen would haunt them, and soon, all of humanity. The signal had been sent, they had answered, and now, terrified or not, the galaxy would have to know. Captain Ryan O'Connor checked his ship's course for the 10th time that hour. The Helios Dawn carried mining equipment and supplies to the outer colonies, but their routine trip had turned strange 3 days ago. Power fluctuations, navigation, errors, and crew members reporting bad dreams had made Ryan uneasy. "Captain," called his chief engineer Mark Johnson from the engine room. "We're getting those energy readings again, stronger this time." Ryan moved to the bridge. "Put it on screen." Nancy, Thompson, the ship's scientist, studied the data flowing across her monitor. These don't match anything in our database. The energy patterns are completely unknown. A sharp beep interrupted them. The communications officer turned in her seat. Sir, we're receiving a distress call. It's from mining facility Alpha 7. On speaker, Ryan ordered. Static filled the bridge, then a panicked voice broke through. This is Alpha 7. We need immediate help. They're tearing the station apart. Nothing can stop them. The voice stopped, abruptly, replaced by horrible tearing sounds and screams. Direction to Alpha 7? Ryan asked. 16 hours away at full speed, Nancy reported. Set course. Maximum speed. Ryan sat in his captain's chair. What are we dealing with, Doctor? Nancy worked at her console. According to the transmission, something attacked the mining station, but that's impossible. Alpha 7 has the best defenses in the sector. Mark joined them on the bridge. Captain, our engines shouldn't run at maximum this long. We need to at least check the systems. We can fix engines. We can't fix dead colonists, Ryan said firmly. Keep pushing. Hours passed in tense silence. The crew stayed at their stations watching for any signs of danger. When they finally reached Alpha 7's coordinates, what they found made everyone's blood run cold. The mining station was gone. In its place, a field of twisted metal drifted through space. Escape pods floated among the debris. Life signs? Ryan asked. 3 escape pods show survivors, the first officer reported. 2 pods, 6 people total. Prepare the docking bay. Move. As the crew brought in the escape pods, Ryan kept scanning space around them. Everything seemed normal, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The pods docked with soft thuds, and moments later, 6 scared, shocked miners stumbled onto the Helios Dawn. Water. Get them water, Ryan ordered. Then he turned to the eldest miner, a woman with ash on her face and fear in her eyes. What happened? She took a long drink before answering. They came out of nowhere. First the lights started flickering, then reality. Bent. I can't explain it. Things moved in ways they shouldn't. The walls, the floors, they just changed. What things? Nancy asked, recording everything. I don't know. We couldn't look at them directly. They hurt our eyes. They were huge and small at the same time. When they moved, space itself moved with them. Another miner spoke up. Our weapons did nothing. Energy shields failed. Even our backup power couldn't keep up. How did you escape? Mark asked. We didn't. They let us go. We think they wanted us to run. Ryan felt ice in his stomach. Why? To spread the warning, the woman said. They're not just destroyers, they're testing us, judging us. Nancy leaned forward. Testing us for what? To see if we're worth keeping alive. The bridge fell silent. Then alarms started blaring. Red warnings flashed on every screen. Captain, the sensor officer called out. Multiple energy signatures. Detected. They're huge. Ryan rushed to his captain's station. On screen. The main display showed space rippling like water. Reality itself seemed to crack and bend. Through these cracks, shapes pushed into normal space, fast forms that made no sense to human eyes. Some geometric, some organic, all impossible. Shield power at 100%, Mark reported. Weapons ready, the tactical officer added. Nancy checked her readings, her face pale. Those things, they exist, in more dimensions than we can see. Our 3D sensors can only show us part of them. Can we fight them? Ryan asked. Sir, the tactical officer said. I don't think our weapons can even reach them. They're between dimensions. The beings moved around the Helios Dawn. They didn't attack, but their presence alone caused systems to fail. Gravity fluctuated. The air felt thick. Several crew members reported headaches. They're communicating, Nancy announced suddenly. Very low-frequency waves, like that signal the research station detected. Ryan made a quick decision. Open a channel, all frequencies. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Ryan O'Connor of the Helios Dawn. We don't want conflict, can you understand us? At first, nothing happened. Then pressure built inside everyone's mind. Not painful, but present. Images started forming. Not picture images, but concepts that bypassed language. Danger. Coming. Prepare. Prepare for what? Ryan asked aloud. More concepts flooded their minds. They saw glimpses of something vast and dark moving through space. Something hungry. Something that consumed stars and left only emptiness behind. When the mental pressure faded, the entire crew was breathing hard. The beings outside remained, but they had stopped moving. They're still sending signals, Nancy said. Coordinates. Lots of coordinates. Plot them all, Ryan ordered. The navigation computer showed dozens of locations across human space. Mining colonies, research stations, even some planets. These places are all under threat, Ryan realized. Captain, his first officer said, we need to warn Earth Command. Agreed. But first, we need to understand what we're dealing with. Ryan turned to the survivors. You said they were testing us. Testing for what exactly? The eldest miner spoke again. Worthiness. They see the universe differently than we do. To them, we're either worth protecting or... She didn't finish. Or what? Mark prompted. Or we're obstacles to be removed before the real danger arrives. Ryan processed this information. Through the view screen, the beings continued their strange dance around his ship. They were massive, yet somehow gentle. Terrifying, yet purposeful. Nancy, can you understand more of their communication? I'm trying, Captain, but it's like trying to understand a song by reading the sound waves. There's too much we can't comprehend. Keep working on it, we need to know more. Ryan turned to his tactical officer. Launch a probe. I want every reading we can get on these things. Probe away, sir. The small probe moved toward the nearest being. As it approached, the probe's sensors went wild. Data streams poured in, most of it meaningless to human technology. But then something changed. The being seemed to notice the probe. It moved around it, almost curiously. It's examining our technology, Nancy said with amazement. It's learning about us. And probably finding us primitive, Ryan muttered. The probe continued gathering data until suddenly it stopped moving. The being had somehow fixed it in place. Then, carefully, deliberately, the being began sending focused signals directly into the probe. Captain, Nancy called out. The probe is getting a massive data download. Information about physics, chemistry, biology. It's teaching us. Can we handle that much information? Our computer is storing everything. It'll take years to analyze. It all, Ryan thought quickly. These beings weren't enemies, at least not yet. They were observers, maybe even teachers. But their very presence was a warning about something worse coming. Open ship-wide communications, he ordered. This is your captain. We've made contact with non-human intelligence. They are not hostile. They are warning us about a greater threat. I need all departments to begin preparations for emergency protocols. As his crew sprang into action, Ryan watched the beings outside. They had answered humanity's unintentional call for understanding. Now humanity needed to prove it was worth the effort. Plot a course for the nearest human colony, he ordered. We need to spread the warning ourselves. Navigation set, Captain. As the Helios Dawn turned away from the debris field, the beings watched. Some followed at a distance. Their purpose was becoming clearer. They were guardians, protectors of worthy species. But their protection came with a heavy price, preparation for the war of all wars. Ryan settled into his captain's chair, knowing that his cargo run had just turned into humanity's first step toward cosmic destiny. The universe was larger and stranger than anyone had imagined. And somewhere in that vastness, something was coming that even these incredible beings feared. The mining survivors huddled together in the common room. The crew worked frantically to understand the alien data. And above it all, the beings maintained their vigil, patient as time itself, watching humanity's next moves with ancient, unknowable eyes. The arrival had marked humanity forever. The question now was whether humanity could rise to meet what was coming next. Admiral Susan Hayes stood before the Emergency Assembly of Earth's Defense Council. The holographic display showed reports flooding in from across human space, attacks on outposts, strange energy readings, mysterious beings appearing near colonies. The room buzzed with worried voices as military leaders and scientists debated what to do. "Order!" Susan called out, her voice cutting through the noise. "Dr. Murphy, your report first." Dr. Kevin Murphy, Earth's leading quantum physicist, activated his presentation. Based on data from all encounters, these beings exist outside our understanding of space-time. They appear to have originated before the Big Bang itself. They move through dimensions we can't even detect. Colonel Peter Grant slammed his fist on the table. "So you're saying we can't fight them?" "They aren't our enemy," Kevin said carefully. "The data indicates they're warning us about something else." "Warning us about what?" demanded General Shaw from the Mars Defense Forces. Before Kevin could answer, Agent Kate Sullivan from Intelligence spoke up. "I've found something in our own archives." She called up ancient documents on the display. Buried in classified military records from the 1950s, reports of dimensional anomalies, strange signals, cover-ups. Susan leaned forward. "What are you saying?" "This isn't the first time they've tried to contact us, but previous governments chose to hide the evidence." Kate highlighted specific sections. "They've been watching us, testing us, our nuclear tests, space travel, AI development. They've been here all along." "Testing us for what?" Peter asked. Kevin pulled up new data. "Our quantum readings suggest the universe isn't stable. Something is moving through the gaps between realities, something that devours energy, matter, and space itself." "A predator," Susan said quietly. "Yes. And it's heading toward our sector of the galaxy." The room fell silent. The holographic display showed simulations of what the beings could detect, dark shapes moving between stars, reality itself being consumed and left empty. "How much time do we have?" Susan asked. "Impossible to know exactly. But based on the being's urgency, maybe months, maybe less." Peter stood up. "Then we need to prepare. Military response, evacuation protocols, defensive positions." "Hold on," Kevin interrupted. "We don't fight this with guns. The beings have been trying to teach us. They're giving us the tools we need." "Tools for what?" "Survival. Evolution. Whatever we need to become to face this threat." Susan looked at each person in the room. Military leaders with battle experience, scientists with brilliant minds, intelligence officers with hidden knowledge. They needed to unite. "Agent Sullivan, dig up everything from those old files. Dr. Murphy, analyze all the data we've received from the beings. Colonel Grant, begin defense planning but follow the doctor's guidance on quantum weapons. We're creating a task force." As the meeting broke apart, Susan pulled Kate aside. "What aren't you telling us?" Kate glanced around, then spoke quietly. "The old files mentioned something else. There were humans who made contact before. People who disappeared, and others who claimed to see the future. Show me." Kate led Susan to a secure room. She activated screens showing faded photographs and handwritten notes. Susan read through them, her expression growing grave. The pictures showed symbols identical to ones the beings had sent to the Helios Dawn. "They gave us instructions back. Then," Kate explained, "how to adapt our technology, but the world wasn't ready. And now we have quantum computers, dimensional physics theories, space travel. We're closer to understanding." Susan made a decision. "Gather a team. Find the descendants of anyone who made contact. Bring them to me." Meanwhile, across Earth's military stations, Peter was implementing his preparations. Defense platforms repositioned themselves. Ships returned from deep space missions. The best and brightest troops received urgent training in quantum combat principles. Inside the United Space Agency, Kevin worked with teams of scientists. The alien data revealed physics beyond human understanding, but within it, They found patterns, mathematical constants that worked differently in other dimensions, energy sources that could power cities. "Look at this," called one researcher. She showed Kevin a formula that appeared in multiple transmissions. "They're not just giving us weapons. They're showing us how reality works on deeper levels." Days passed in frantic activity. Then the first breakthrough came. A colony ship testing new quantum engines suddenly jumped further than their calculations predicted. They'd crossed into what the aliens called higher space. "We're learning," Kevin reported to Susan. "The being's gifts are allowing us to think in higher dimensions. Our evolution is accelerating." But is it fast enough? She wondered. That question haunted everyone as weeks passed. More beings appeared throughout human space. Not attacking, not interfering, just watching. Observing. Testing reactions to their presence. Then the pattern emerged. Peter's military analysts noticed it first. The beings always position themselves between us and deep space. They're forming a barrier. A defensive line, Susan realized. They're protecting us while we prepare. During this time, strange things began happening to humans who spent time near the beings. Expanded perception, new ways of thinking, dreams filled with advanced mathematics and cosmic concepts. It frightened some people, inspired others. Kate's team found the descendants of earlier contact. Many had stories passed down through generations. Tales of family members who changed after seeing lights in the sky. Others had notebooks filled with advanced equations written decades before humans should have understood them. "They've been preparing us," Kate reported. "Seeding knowledge slowly." Kevin made another discovery. The signals aren't random. They're a progression. Like a curriculum, teaching us step by step. "Teaching us what exactly?" Susan asked. "How to survive. How to coexist with higher dimensional reality. How to protect our space-time from the entity that's coming." Then cosmic events accelerated. Stars began flickering in distant sectors. Gravitational anomalies appeared. The being's barrier formation tightened around human space. "It's closer," Peter announced one morning. "Whatever's coming, it's moving faster than we expected." Kevin presented his latest findings. "We've made huge advances. Quantum shields, dimensional sensors, reality stabilizers. But we're missing something fundamental." "What?" "Unity. The beings see reality as interconnected. If we remain divided among ourselves, we can't protect our dimension." Susan called emergency meetings with leaders of all human factions. For the first time in history, Earth's governments worked together completely. Mars, the moon, asteroid colonies, everyone joined the effort. Ships began retrofitting with new technology. Defense platforms installed quantum weapons. Communication networks used higher dimensional frequencies. Humanity transformed its entire infrastructure in weeks, what should have taken years. The beings watched it all. To them, time flowed differently. They could see possible futures branching from each decision humans made. And in those visions, they saw hope. Late one night, Susan received an urgent call. "Admiral, we're getting direct contact signals from the nearest entity." She rushed to the command center. For the first time, the being sent clear mathematical messages, not concepts or emotions, but precise information. Kevin translated them. Coordinates, timing. They're telling us when and where it will arrive. "How long?" Peter asked. 3 months to first contact with our stellar neighborhood. "Then we fight," Peter declared. "No," Kevin said firmly. "We evolve. That's the test. Can humanity grow beyond its violent nature fast enough to handle cosmic responsibility?" Susan understood then. The entire situation was a transformation. The universe was making humanity choose its path. Destruction or evolution. War or growth. Fear or understanding. "Begin final preparations," she ordered. "This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about becoming worthy of cosmic citizenship." All across human space, beings continued their vigil. They had shown humanity the truth about the universe. Now, humanity had to decide what to do with that knowledge. The choice would determine not just human survival, but Earth's place in the infinite story of existence. The revelation was complete. Humanity now knew what was coming and what they needed to become. The real test was about to begin. Chris Bennett crouched behind a fallen defense barrier on the moon. Lunar dust covered his armor as he checked his quantum weapon. The training grounds had become real battlefields once the first tests arrived at Earth's doorstep. These weren't full attacks from the devouring entity, but smaller probes it sent ahead. Like scouts checking defenses, got visual on enemy probe. His second-in-command reported through the comm. 15 clicks northeast. Chris looked through his enhanced scope. The probe looked wrong. It existed in 3 dimensions, but pieces of it kept slipping into spaces his eyes couldn't follow. When it moved, reality bent around it like looking through water. "Hold your fire," he commanded. "Remember what Dr. White said. We observe first, then test the quantum effects." Dr. Derek White watched from the command bunker, surrounded by screens showing data from every sensor on the moon. "That probe is scanning our defenses. It's learning." "Can't we stop it?" asked Senator Bill Patterson, who had come to see Earth's military preparations firsthand. "We could, but that would tell the entity what we're capable of. Better to learn what it's capable of first." Derek's phone buzzed with an urgent message. "Governor, we have a situation in the colony ships." "What situation?" "They're experiencing time displacement. One ship jumped 15 minutes into the future. Another ship is caught in a time loop." Meanwhile, Captain Amy Rodriguez commanded colony ship New Hope as it transported civilians to safety. She'd volunteered for evacuation duty, knowing these were humanity's most vulnerable. "Captain," called her navigation officer, "we're getting quantum interference. Something's affecting our path. Switch to backup systems." "Already did. The interference isn't with our equipment, it's with space itself." Amy rushed to the bridge. Through the viewports, she saw streams of energy flowing between stars. The quantum wake from distant battles was reaching them. "All ships, this is New Hope. Maintain formation. These energy streams are harmless if we don't panic." A child's voice came over comms. "Captain, my window is showing impossible things." Amy sighed. Children were more sensitive to the quantum effects. They saw reality differently than adults. "I know, sweetie. Think of it like watching a really advanced movie. It's not real, and you're safe." Back on the moon, Chris finally got his first combat experience. A probe had changed direction and was heading toward the lunar base. All units weapons free, test protocols only. His soldiers fired experimental quantum disruptors. The beams hit the probe and for a moment nothing happened. Then the probe seemed to unravel, its pieces floating apart in ways that defied geometry. "Did we kill it?" a soldier asked. "No," Derek replied through comms. "You displaced it temporarily. It'll reform unless we hit it with a reality anchor." Reality anchors were new technology humanity had developed. They stabilized space-time in small areas, preventing the entity's probes from slipping between dimensions. Chris ordered the anchor deployment. A missile struck the probe's location. Where it hit, space seemed to crystallize. The probe couldn't reform within the anchor's field. It writhed like an insect pinned to paper, then dissolved. "First kill," Chris muttered. But he knew this was just a tiny victory. The real entity was massive beyond understanding. At the same time, Earth faced direct trials. Major cities reported time anomalies. In New York, people walked into buildings and emerged hours later, confused. In Beijing, a section of the city was stuck repeating the same 15 minutes. Bill Patterson coordinated the civilian response. "We need shelters with quantum shielding." "We don't have enough," Derek admitted. "The tech is too new, too complex." Then we improvise. Humanity showed its adaptability. Underground bunkers used by miners for centuries became quantum safe zones. Ancient caves proved naturally resistant. People shared shelters across old borders. Nations that hadn't spoken in decades worked together. Dr. Ellen Carter, Kevin's quantum physics colleague, made a breakthrough discovery. She found humans exposed to frequent quantum anomalies began adapting. Their brains started processing multi-dimensional information naturally. It's accelerated evolution, she reported. The beings have been slowly preparing human biology for this. How do we speed it up? Susan Hayes asked. We don't force it, we embrace it. Meditation centers, biofeedback training, dream analysis. We're becoming something more than human. The siege continued for weeks. Probe attacks increased, Earth's defenses improved, quantum weapon tests showed promise. But victories remained small. The entity hadn't shown its true power. Then came the worst day. A probe slipped through defenses and reached Earth's atmosphere. It touched down in a remote area of Canada. Where it landed, a 10-mile circle of forest simply disappeared. Not destroyed, erased, like it had never existed. That's what we're fighting, Peter Grant told the assembled military leaders. Complete erasure from reality. But humanity learned from each encounter. Derek developed portable reality stabilizers. Chris trained rapid response teams in quantum combat. Amy's evacuation experience led to better escape protocols. Bill's civilian shelters adopted modular designs for quick deployment. Most importantly, humans began changing themselves. Children born after the being's arrival showed enhanced abilities. They understood quantum concepts intuitively. Adults exposed to training programs developed new perceptions. Some could sense dimensional rifts. Others could navigate quantum space. 1 month into the siege, Chris led a mission to reclaim a compromised research station. His team found reality distorted into mazes of floating architecture. Gravity worked sideways in some areas. Time moved. Faster in rooms that should have been side by side. Remember your training, Chris called to his team. The quantum realm has different rules, but it still has rules. They moved through the warped station step by careful step. When the squad reached the main lab, they found something unexpected. Human researchers, alive and conscious, floating in a bubble of stable reality. Thank God, one researcher gasped as they extracted her. We've been studying the probe that did this. It leaves patterns, mathematical signatures. Back on Earth, this discovery changed everything. If probes left patterns, those patterns could be predicted. If they could be predicted, defenses could be improved. Derek and Ellen worked frantically. The entity isn't just destroying, it's testing structural weaknesses in our dimension. Like looking for cracks in a wall, Peter understood. Exactly. And if we can reinforce those cracks before it hits them, humanity mobilized completely. Every resource, every mind, every effort focused on understanding and countering the quantum attacks. Old rivalries disappeared, new alliances formed. The planet united in ways never before possible. As the siege wore on, humanity proved its signature trait: adaptation. When faced with physics-defying problems, humans invented new physics. When reality itself became a weapon, humans learned to be reality shapers. The beings watched silently. They saw humanity's transformation. They noticed new technologies, new ways of thinking, new understanding of cosmic truth. And in their ancient multi-dimensional way, they approved. But the siege was just preparation. The main battle still approached. The entity was coming. And in confronting it, humanity would either prove worthy of survival or be erased from existence itself. Time ran out as the final month began. Admiral Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity 1, as humanity's combined fleet gathered near the edge of the solar system. Ships from every nation, every colony, every outpost joined together. The largest armada humanity had ever assembled waited for the final battle. Dr. Carter, status on the Paradox Protocol? Jack asked. Dr. Ellen Carter checked her screens, her face illuminated by quantum displays. Ready, Admiral. If these beings can communicate with concepts, we should be able to communicate back the same way, Commander Lisa Walsh reported from the tactical station. All ships confirm quantum weapons armed. Reality anchors deployed. We're as ready as we can be. Sir, called the sensor officer. It's here. Through the viewports, space itself began to change. Stars flickered and went out. The darkness wasn't empty. It moved with hungry purpose. Reality cracked like glass as the devouring entity crossed into human space. It was massive beyond belief. Not a ship or creature, but a living void. Where it moved, existence ended. Planets simply stopped being. Stars collapsed into nothing. It fed on reality itself, leaving emptiness in its wake. "Open the channel," Jack ordered. "All frequencies, all dimensions." Ellen activated the paradox protocol. Instead of trying to communicate with words or signals, they sent pure concepts through quantum fields, the same way the beings had taught them. Understanding, curiosity, desire for knowledge. The entity paused. For the first time in its existence, across countless dimensions, something tried to understand it rather than fight or flee. Lisa monitored the response. It's answering, but it's confused, like it never expected communication. Ellen translated the returning concepts. It's lonely. It's been consuming reality because it's searching, looking for others like itself. Jack absorbed this revelation. Open a direct communication line, maximum bandwidth. What followed was humanity's first true cosmic conversation. Through quantum networks, humans and the entity began sharing experiences. Humans showed it their world: art, music, love, growth. The entity showed humans the void, endless searching, eternal hunger, the pain of consuming because nothing else would interact. Captain Scott Turner, piloting humanity's first dimensional crossing ship, made a bold decision, requesting permission to cross into the entity's dimension. "Denied," Lisa called out. "Approved," Jack overrode, "but stay within protective range." Scott's ship phased between dimensions. For a moment he existed where no human had gone before. He saw the truth of the entity. It wasn't evil or malicious. It was desperate and alone, created without purpose, unable to connect with anything without destroying it. Scott returned with tears in his eyes. "It's us. If we hadn't found community, hadn't learned to connect, we could have become that." The revelation changed everything. Instead of preparing to fight, humanity prepared to heal. The beings that had guided them watched in approval. This was the test, not combat ability, but the capacity for understanding. Ellen worked feverishly. "I think we can help it. Our quantum anchors can stabilize reality around it. Give it a way to exist without consuming." "But that's impossible," Lisa protested. "The energy requirements alone." "Not if we share the burden," Jack realized. Every ship, every station, every quantum device humanity has built. They proposed it to the entity through pure concept sharing. Instead of offering to fight or flee, they offered to help solve its fundamental problem: how to exist without destroying. The entity hesitated, a cosmic pause that lasted subjective eons. Then it accepted. What happened next would be recorded in cosmic history forever. Humanity's fleet didn't fire weapons. Instead, they activated quantum harmony protocols. Every ship, even civilian vessels, contributed their quantum processors. Earth's defense network joined. Mining stations, research labs, even personal quantum devices all linked together. The entity positioned itself in the center of the fleet. Humanity surrounded it not with weapons but with support. Reality anchors deployed in perfect geometric patterns. Ships generated stabilizing fields working in harmony. Slowly, the entity began to change. Its hungry void transformed into something new. A being of vast consciousness that could exist without consuming. For the first time in its cosmic lifespan, it felt connection without destruction. "It's beautiful," Scott whispered, tears flowing freely. Through the ship's sensors, they could see reality itself healing where the entity had passed. Not just repairing damage, but evolving. Enhanced. Improved. The beings that had guided humanity through this journey finally made themselves fully visible. They appeared not as impossible geometric shapes, but as light and presence that human eyes could comprehend. They communicated clearly for the first time. "You have passed the test. You chose understanding over conflict, growth over destruction, unity over division." "What was the test for?" Jack asked. "To see if you were ready to join the cosmic community, to become guardians of reality instead of its destroyers, You didn't just save your dimension, you healed one of reality's ancient wounds. Throughout human space, celebrations erupted. But the real changes were just beginning. The entity, now peaceful and purpose-driven, offered gifts, knowledge of true dimensional existence, understanding of how to move between realities safely, the ability to explore the universe without disrupting it. The beings revealed their full purpose. They were cosmic caretakers, helping young species evolve to become responsible members of the universal community. Earth's nuclear testing had breached dimensional barriers, drawing their attention. But humanity's response proved their worthiness. "What happens now?" Ellen asked. "Now you begin your real journey. Your solar system becomes a waypoint between dimensions, a place where wounded entities can be healed, where young species can learn, where reality itself can grow stronger." Years passed. The solar system transformed into a cosmic hub. Alien species came seeking humanity's unique ability to bridge understanding. The entity that once threatened to devour reality became humanity's first partner in cosmic exploration. Children grew up knowing the universe was infinite and interconnected. They developed abilities to perceive and navigate multiple dimensions naturally. Art and science merged as humans expressed cosmic truths in new ways. Jack, now elderly and wise, often stood at his old command post on Unity 1. The ship had been converted into a teaching vessel, training new cosmic ambassadors. "Did we ever really answer the distress signal?" a young student asked him one day. Jack smiled. "We didn't just answer it. We understood it. The beings were sending a signal of distress because they knew what was coming. But the real distress signal came from the entity itself, a being crying out in cosmic loneliness. And we heard it, because we chose to listen instead of just act. That's what made us truly terrifying to the galaxy. Not our weapons or our ships, but our capacity to turn the most dangerous beings into allies." The student nodded, understanding. By choosing empathy. By choosing to grow. That day, a new expedition launched from the solar system. A mixed crew of humans and various dimensional beings set out to answer another distress signal from a distant galaxy. They carried no weapons. They needed none. Their answer to threat was understanding, healing, and unity. The universe watched as humanity became what they were always meant to be, not conquerors, but connectors. Not destroyers, but healers. Not isolated entities, but bridges between all forms of existence. And in the vast cosmic tapestry, one small blue world proved that the most terrifying force in the universe was not destruction, but the absolute refusal to give up on understanding, connection, and love. The distress signal had been answered. The answer terrified the galaxy because it showed what was possible when a species chose wisdom over warfare. And in becoming that answer, humanity became eternal.